This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
You're in a good place now. Relax, breathe, smile. You've entered into your element, the home of origin, the home of intelligence and beauty, where relevant topics are discussed, where what you think counts, and where superior is the norm. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. You know, everybody that's listening tonight and anybody that knows me really well knows that there's one thing that I really like, and that's talking about synchronicity. It's talking about synchronicity in life. And tonight I decided we should dedicate an entire show to synchronicity because it's so dear and near to my heart. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing fine. I think I'm doing better than you. How's your arm?
I know, I got sucked in by the door. I cannot believe it got me through a jacket and then like a big sweater.
Well, yeah, so for our listeners tonight, poor Ashley, I mean, just before the show started tonight, the studio door, it was closing, and I guess you had your arm just right there, and it pinched you as it closed.
Yeah.
And
it's all welded up.
It's like I didn't see it. I was sitting here in the control room, doing my thing, and
I saw it.
E-Money, Mobile E-Money saw it, but I didn't see it. I just heard it. You went, yow!
She took it like a ball player.
Well, she did.
She took it like a ball
player. She
player.
did, but you're still personally blaming the door, aren't you?
Well, I was wondering about the synchronicity of this scenario. I wouldn't have been in that room if there wasn't a reason.
Right, I guess so, yeah. So,
somebody sent me in there.
The door had something personally against you.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm getting over it.
Yes.
I got some ice. Here on the wound.
Icy.
Ashley's tough.
She's got a heck of an ice pad she's using.
and this is a family show, so we'll skip over that part.
I got it out of the freezer. There was no ice here, so we had to do what we had to do.
Funny.
But I like to talk about synchronicity. And Eric, I think you know that we talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
And so tonight's show is about synchronicity. How in sync is your life? How in sync is your life? And I think we really need to talk about how important it is to have synchronicity. And how do you make it a reality in your daily life? And I think let's talk about synchronicity as a practice, because it's really a bedrock to my practice as a coach and as a therapist, because it's kind of cool because when you're in sync with your life, you're able to have, it's like grace and peace and understanding, and it's kind of fun, and it makes life more interesting because wild things happen that you're able to pick up on that most people don't even pay attention to. And it's really kind of cool. But synchronicity can only happen when you're doing certain things in life. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is what you need to be doing to have synchronicity appear in all forms of your life.
Well, a quick question for you, Ashley. Now, does it mean the same thing when you say balance in your life, or are we talking, maybe two slightly different concepts?
Different.
Okay.
I mean, balance is good. You have to be balanced to be able to have synchronicity, but synchronicity is being able to see things for what they truly are, not speeding up, not slowing down, being at the right place at the right time, meeting the exact right people you need to meet, even having funny exchanges where the whole intent of doing something actually comes to fruition based on some other act from some other person. So you're able to identify, okay, this had to take place in my life for this to happen, and you can actually see how the connections are made.
So it's kind of an aspect of karma, isn't it, in this? In order for the synchronicity to happen,
I think it's got elements of it.
Yeah, you need to be at the right place at the right time with the right people, blah, blah, blah.
In order for you to have good synchronicity in your life, you have to be doing the right thing.
Okay, all right.
So yes, in that respect, that is part of it.
And it's a concerted effort. It's funny, synchronicity synchronicity, Ashley, as you guys know, Bill, happens to be one of my favorite words. I remember when I was
Spell
younger.
it. Fast.
No,
Spell
I'm not. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to ruin my
It's a
favorite word. I'm not going to ruin my favorite
You
word.
should know how to spell your favorite
let me
word.
finish, man. Let me finish. So, as the listeners know from our Facebook page and all of that, Sting just so happens to be one of my favorite artists, and so
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good, and so when he did the whole Synchronicity song, I was like, "Wow, look at the big brain on Sting."
I'll tell you a secret.
Yeah.
He's not one of my favorite singers.
That's okay.
Because he insulted my favorite singer once upon a time.
You've held that as a grudge this whole time.
And I've held a grudge for 20
So
plus
they must have
years.
insulted AC/DC, or who did they insult?
Well, who did they insult?
Ozzy. He insulted Ozzy one
Insulted
time.
Ozzy?
What did he say about
The
Ozzy?
sober Ozzy or the intoxicated Ozzy?
Well, I mean, I don't think we've seen sober Ozzy, for a long time. But anyway, let's just say he, denigrated Ozzy's talent.
What did he
in
say
the
about
building.
his talent?
I don't remember exactly what he said.
He didn't
but,
mean it. He didn't mean it.
Oh, baloney.
He didn't mean it. Synchronicity, my favorite word.
It's like you're Ozzy, or you're like Ozzy's kid or something, like holding his
am.
grudge.
I am. I'm.
Is that why you are the way you are?
Because see, Black Sabbath did play a concert in my hometown before I was born.
Ah.
So there you go.
Oh, and knowing some of the background on your family.
and knowing the background of my family.
There's a possibility
There's
that you actually could be his kid.
His long lost. So
This actually makes a lot more sense.
If that's true, then I'm making bank.
I think
Let's do we want to do a DNA test right now. I think
should.
we need to get Maury Povich up in here, and let's do it.
You got a Q-tip, buddy?
You're Ozzy-ish.
I'll go get the Q-tip from down the street.
I get it now. I get it. Don't bite the bird off the head. That's what Sting said. He said that to Ozzy when Ozzy bit the head off the bird.
Actually, bit the head off the. Well, he did bite the head off a bird, but he bit the head off the bat. That's the one.
That's
that's
disgusting.
Don't bite the head off
it was
the
an
bat.
accident. He didn't know it was a live bat.
Boy, does that make it okay that it's a dead bat?
Well, no, and he's horrified by it. He can't live it down. He doesn't. He wants to live it down.
How screwed up are you to not know that this is a live animal?
Ozzy, listen to this show to get your life back in order. We can bring synchronicity to your life.
He doesn't need all that.
Killing animals will not help you with synchronicity.
He's not into the rest of that stuff. But he's not good at drug rehab. But he could get with Ashley Burgess, and he could have synchronicity in his life.
Well, he has to get off drugs first, though. That's the problem. That's the key, is that when we're on drugs, that's an interesting concept, because even on certain pharmaceutical drugs that you're prescribed, you really need to think about it, because a lot of those drugs can take you off point. And so we're not going to go in there and hash and rehash that on tonight's show. But if you're not in the right timing, being that a pill is slowing you down or a pill is speeding you up, I know we have a lot of listeners out there, especially a lot of 20-something-year-old women that are taking a lot of Adderall and don't need to be taking it because they're taking it to lose weight. They're taking it to be skinny. And the thing is, think about how speeded up you are all the time. Think about how you're going a mile a minute. You're always thinking that everybody's out to get you because you're always stressed out. And that's what speed does, okay? So when we start taking things like that, what happens? We get off point. We're unable to see people for how they truly are. We run from good situations, and we run into bad situations a lot too. But that's part of not being in the now, not being in the prime.
Well, and not just drugs and alcohol. You could say that about anything that
disrupts.
Like food addictions, or shopping addictions, maybe. Hanging with the wrong crowd. I'm probably getting ahead of you here, Ashley, but hanging with the wrong crowd can probably do the same thing to you.
Well, yes, it can. It can, because what they say, birds of a feather flock together, unless you get bitten your head off by Ozzy Osbourne, right?
We ain't flocking to Ozzy. We're gonna flock
to Ozzy.
We're gonna flock to the Sting and the police.
Go the other way.
Ozzy is the prince.
I love
Go
Ozzy.
toward the light. So we're talking about synchronicity tonight, and how it's the bedrock of my practice. And I want to start talking about how we obtain synchronicity in all areas of our life. And it's really cool, because when it starts happening, what it does is it builds on itself. And so you get more and more and more and more of it, and it almost becomes like a drug in itself, where you kind of get, a little addicted to it happening, because it makes life so much more interesting. Yep. So the first thing that you can do to actually have synchronicity in your life full time is doing exactly what you need to be doing. I know that sounds kind of odd, but you need to do exactly what you need to be doing. A lot of times we go out of our way to do things we don't need to be doing. We go out of our way to do things that are actually counterproductive to us being who we need to be in life. We like to go back and hang out with the old crowd when we seem to be getting a little ahead because we're scared of our own success. That's one of the things that I actually watch a lot of people do is when they get this great job and things are all going and things are rolling and they're meeting new people and all this stuff, and all of a sudden, I need to call some of the old crowd. And the next thing you know, they're out at the bar, they're drinking, and I don't know how many times I know friends that right when they're at the top of things that are going on, next thing you know, they walk out of the bar, they get in their car, and they get a DWI.
I had an ex-friend. You know the backstory to this, Ashley. The friend I had, I tried to help him, and we just ended up having a falling out because, it was an ex-girlfriend in his case. This woman treated my friend so bad.
Oh, and he kept going back to her?
So bad, and kept trying to go back to her. Would have affairs, moved in with this guy right under his nose.
Really?
And he kept trying to go back with her. And I was sitting there saying, bro, you got to cut her loose. She's no good for you. She's proven it. How many times does she has to do this before you'll figure it out? And he kept going back to her, and he just kept going into this really dark place. He kept spiraling down,
right,
to the point where it was where he threatened. Well, he didn't threaten. He started to take me down with him. That's what
happens.
That's when I had to just cut it loose.
Yeah,
it was painful, but I didn't see I had a choice at the time.
And Bill, the funny thing about that is that when it happens, you know it.
Yes.
You know it, and then you have that conversation within your head: should I or shouldn't I? And when we don't listen to that voice in our head, is typically when we go down that wrong road for whatever reason. I've been there. It's the weirdest thing, but there's a decision point in that process that you can always remember.
Yep,
always remember.
Yep,
I totally agree with that. And when we return, we're going to be talking more about how you can understand more about synchronicity, as well as how you can be in sync in all areas of your life. So stay tuned, because Perspectives with your host.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. When you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself, talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives with Ashley Burgess. The water's warm and there's a swim-up bar. Glass of perspective, anyone? Now, here's Ashley.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Tonight's show, we're discussing one of my favorite things, synchronicity, and how you can get your entire life in sync beginning tonight. It was interesting when you were talking right before the break, Bill, about how your friend was spiraling out of control and basically based in a bad cycle of a relationship. And right before the break, we talked about how you need to be doing what you need to be doing, meaning you need to stay in your lane. When things start working out for you, you need to be in that direction. Don't try to sabotage yourself by going backwards. And I think that leads us to exactly what Bill was talking about. And that's don't be a doormat as well as to end bad cycles, right? Because a lot of us, we allow people to walk all over us. We've done it so many times, especially family members and really close friends, as well as sometimes we have a difficult time of ending bad cycles.
Ashley, I wonder if people who get into that, to me, it's a self-esteem issue. They just don't think they're very good people, and if they don't allow somebody to walk all over them, well, he or she is not going to like me anymore, so I'm just going to put up with it.
It's self-esteem as well as, I think, self-awareness as well. Some people really don't understand that they are impacted by their environment. Some people really don't understand that they have the power to create that synchronicity or that balance or that alignment. They just don't understand that.
Well, some people are doormats to other people because they've always done that. It's a cycle of theirs. So if it's a brother or sister, an older brother, older sister, or cousin, perhaps, that they've always taken care of, that they've had like that motherly, like, so some people have like this kind of motherly feeling with certain family members. If they've always had that feeling, they've always taken care of them, and that family member kind of goes out of the way and realizes that they can use them a lot, right when they become really aware and all of a sudden aware of the surroundings and understand it, they start realizing when that person's actually taking advantage of them. Because a lot of times they don't see it as that because it's guised in this, I'm trying to help you.
Love.
Or you need that work done on your house. So if I move in for 5 months, I can do it for you. Instead, you don't need that person moving in. You don't need them moving in at all. I mean, you could go hire a contractor and you can hire some subs to do that work. But the cycle is allowing them to come back into your life and using you. And when you finally put your foot down and say, no, this isn't going to work. I want to keep this going in my life. You're going to try to pull me back, but if I connect with you, we're both going to hold myself back.
And that's happened to me before. I had a family member, and she's gone through a variety of issues, and she just has not done well. And she was part of my life growing up. She was an older relative, by about 5 years, so we were relatively close, but she was older. And we were playmates growing up. And in various phases in her life, she's made terrible decisions. And I remember once I'd moved away. I was in Austin at the time, and I'd encountered her. And she immediately went back to when we were kids again to throw me off of the fact that she had created, or she was a part of a real negative energy. So I let her, come to our house and stay to get back on her feet. And to your point, Ashley, about a day into it, I knew I'd made a bad decision because the energy was bad. And she had used our relationship from when I was a kid as an entry point to our space. And I knew as soon as I closed the door, put her bags down, that energy felt bad. And I could not wait until the opening to get her out of the house.
How did you get her out?
It was circumstances. I still was respectful in the situation, but I think she just sensed that the energy was bad and I'd picked up on it. She realized that the game was over and I wasn't falling for
the jig is up.
Yeah, the jig is up. And I think eventually I came home I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks later, and she was gone.
Nice.
She was gone.
And that's nice when it can happen, but for everybody else that's listening tonight, sometimes it doesn't happen that way. And sometimes you don't have 2 or 3 weeks to wait. And so in those situations, when you get yourself in situations like that, it can be overwhelming to have to look at that person and say, hey. But the best thing you can do to keep in synchronicity and to better your life is to tell the truth and say, you know what, I overstepped. I had no idea what I was getting into
in the beginning.
Yeah, let's regroup here, and I'm going to need you to move back out.
Yeah, and I accept responsibility for it. It's on me, but I'm going to need you to move back out.
And in those situations, because the situation's so bad, and you almost try to ruin your life. Just letting them go and knowing that there's a possibility that you'll never hear from them again is okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. And like you were talking about that, Bill, about how your friend kept going back to that abusive relationship. In order to have synchronicity in your life, you have to end cycles.
Yep.
A lot of these cycles in our life are not good. Okay, especially when it comes to love relationships, when it comes to certain people walking all over you, there's certain cycles that we all have a tendency to. And it's not all self-esteem. Sometimes it could be because you truly have feelings for that person and you love them, but it's the wrong type of love, or they're using it against you, or they're not really necessarily a good person as far as caring about you. Yeah. And so you constantly get yourself into this spiral, but the reason why we choose to go backwards, that's all a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, yeah, I mean, and again, shout out to our boy Keenan. First of all, Keenan, what's up?
But
of kind of a science reference. Inertia is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Okay, once you get started in a certain direction, it is very hard to stop, or to change direction.
It's easy.
Yeah,
because it's easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to just keep going in the right direction. I mean, we've actually talked about that concept about getting started, on a certain path and not being able to get it, Ashley. And if our listeners want to, go listen to previous episodes on that, they can go to Spreaker.
iTunes on Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Yeah, so just wanted to shout out that to our listeners.
And we're talking right now also on Facebook. Go on and Facebook us or tweet us and let us know when the last time you dealt with a cycle, you were able to observe a cycle in your life and able to kind of come to terms and come end it. And I've been there before where I've looked at a situation and I've gone back and back and back. And I have a past relationship where we got back together 4 or 5 times. And this was a long time ago. However, each time was not that good. Okay, and it wasn't ever going to change. And it took me to understand that there is something within me that's drawing me to that person.
Yeah.
However, it's not right for me.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't know if, some people say it's from past lives and this and that. I don't know about that, but I will tell you one thing is that there was such a great pull toward that person that it was unexplainable how much that pull was. I'm wondering if that was a little bit of, I think we all have that positive and negative within us.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that was a little bit of my negative side trying to kind of like personally screw me over, and so I was actually co-creating that, or if there was some sort of pull, but sometimes those people we have that most pull with are not always the most healthiest for us.
Was it like the door that pinched you?
Well, that just pinched you one time. I mean, this would be like the door pinching you every single second of the day, and you looking at it going, this is painful, this is painful, this is painful. I'm going back, though. This is painful, this is painful. Yeah, I'm going back, though.
I noticed you're staying away from the studio door, Ashley.
Yeah.
So.
I'm going back, though.
Let me ask this. I know we're close to a break here real quick, but, you talked a couple things, Ashley, past lives. I've always been fascinated by, and we talk about cycles. If I was able to go back to my ancestors' generations, to my ancestral, genetic line, would those people or would a certain person in that line display the same types of emotional and physical characteristics? We know physically to a degree, but those same emotional characteristics that I deal with and struggle with today. I've always been fascinated by that. And so when you talk about making a choice that sometimes takes you out of synchronicity or takes you out of balance, is that physical? Is that DNA? Is that psychological? Is that societal? Or is it all of those things?
Well, Ashley, I think it's probably all those things because, from a DNA standpoint, I mean, we still don't understand how the brain works, right? And, the brain chemistry. And so, as far as inheriting certain characteristics, I mean, it's possible, don't you think?
I have to argue that. I mean, my argument would be that we're all humans. We all have all emotions. We all feel all different things. And we all have the capacity of feeling various things that other people feel. I don't think it has to be an ancestral thing. I mean, you and I can go through the same thing. You and I can go through the same thing.
Yeah, but the traits of it, and I hate to use this as an example, alcoholism or abuse or, those types of things, is that not DNA based to some degree? Or is
but
that...
then you have, but the thing is weird that you have offspring where you have one that becomes the alcoholic. Let's say the father was the alcoholic. Let's say even a mother and father were both alcoholics. You have 3 offsprings. One becomes an alcoholic. The other 2 aren't.
The other becomes a preacher.
Well, and that's the opposite.
Yeah,
I'm going to run as fast as I can, and then you have the other ones that'll never touch a drink because they never want to find out.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
In some rationale, there are things that are genetic. There are certain cancers and certain things and mutations that are genetic.
Yeah.
There are things that aren't. And I agree with you that there might be some sort of genetic pool if like, let's say, like somebody's father or mother was an addict and they were to do drugs.
Yeah.
They could be more predisposed to be an addict. That's definitely been proven. However, when it comes to the cycles, I think our cycles that we create are created for ourselves, and we create those for reasons. We create those to learn things. We create them as a learning basis, but the thing is that once we've learned, we have to move on. But sometimes we use them to basically corrupt our future because we don't want to deal with the next step. We'd rather deal with the past that didn't really work out because we'd rather do that than move forward of what we know we need to actually personally create.
Yeah, interesting.
Because I think a lot of times we have that ego that's on the side, and everybody thinks the ego is supposed to be helping us out or whatever, but the ego is the thing that holds you back from doing what you need to be doing in life, and that ego is the one that tells you, oh, you should call so-and-so.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be good. You call that person that really screwed up your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you don't hear it that way. I wonder what they're doing. I'll call them up. Hey, how you doing? And right when they walk in the door, you go, oh, crap.
Yeah.
I just got
Here
myself.
we go again.
Here we go.
It's like a merry-go-round.
No. And the music's the same and everything's the same. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
We return to be talking about more about synchronicity and how you can be in sync in all facets of your life. Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in 2.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Tonight's show, we're talking my favorite word, synchronicity.
No, it's my favorite word, Ashley.
It's mine.
Mine.
It's my best friend.
Okay, you can have it.
See, you just let her walk all over you, Eric.
No, it's her name on the show.
Well,
Oh!
I'm trying to stay in my own. I'm trying to stay in my own realm of synchronicity.
He knows what's good.
he wants to stay employed. I got it. Yeah.
See, it all works out.
It does.
He's keeping synchronicity in all facets of his
All
life.
facets.
So how important is it to you? And that's what we're talking about tonight, and how you can actually make it a reality in your daily life. And right before the break, we were talking about how you don't want to be a doormat, and you want to end these negative cycles in your life. And so if you're always cowing down, and I hate to use the word cow because I don't eat cow, and I really respect cow. If you're always not sheeping down, but if you're always just allowing other people to take control, you really need to step back and ask, is it because they have some sort of label, i.e. brother, sister, mom, dad, cousin? What is it about them? Step back and analyze that, as well as figure out those negative cycles that we put ourselves into. Because like I've said on previous shows, and you can hear them on Spreaker and you hear them on iTunes, is the fact that it's not about, oh, she just came back into my life. You let her come back into your life. If you told somebody to go away and they call you up and you answer the phone and you say, come on over, let's make it a date, you co-created the situation. You co-created this negative cycle, and you're perpetuating yourself from not growing and moving on in your life. So the next concept I want to talk about is honest and authentic 24/7.
Nice.
When you're honest about your feelings and you're honest about your needs and your desires, and you're authentic in all situations, guess what? You'll always be in sync.
Yeah.
Even if, because I understand, I'm human. Okay, I'm a human being too. I'm
and you bleed too. We saw that.
It didn't actually bleed though.
Oh, I thought you said it cut the
She
skin.
didn't bleed.
No, it didn't bleed.
Bill, she
Oh.
didn't bleed.
Oh!
It's kind of freaking me out.
no,
She
no.
didn't bleed.
Yeah, that was wild, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It bled. No. It bled under the skin. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a bruise. Look at
She
it.
didn't
see?
bleed externally.
But I
I'll
didn't
put
externally
it that way.
bleed, though.
Externally.
I think Ashley may have like green blood.
It does look green, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It might be just
But
the
that's
bruise.
a different show.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's
It
a
might be the
different
green
show.
bruise around all the bloody underskin.
That's a
need-
different show.
We need Keenan here to scientifically analyze this.
My
I think.
theory is Ashley's probably not from here.
Well, men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Oh man, I want to be from somewhere else besides Venus. Venus seems like it's clever and all, but a couple. I don't know, maybe like 1,500 solar systems away. We'll figure that one out.
Somewhere. Yeah, as soon as
But-
we find them.
Think about being honest and authentic 24/7. Think about this. Now, I want to talk about a little funny example. Is that when we're authentic and honest 24/7, guess what? Sometimes it can end friendships and relationships, right? But normally when we end certain relationships, other ones come in because there's room, okay? It's just like when you're dating someone or you're meeting people, especially everybody out there listening that are on Tinder and Match.com and all those things, or going to bars and trying to meet people. When you're honest with people, you kind of weed out what you don't want. But when you're not honest and you're just trying to get some booty, or you're just trying to get a date because you feel lonely, you're going to be with people that you have nothing in common with, people that you're going to sit there and have to lie and BS about how much you love watching XYZ hockey team. You know what I mean? For a lot of women out there, they're, oh, yeah, I just love it. They have no idea. They're like, oh, I love their costumes. They have no idea what's going on. And so instead of finding someone that they actually have something in common with, which I see all the time because they go, well, the relationship didn't work. Well, the relationship was doomed to fail. But instead of like figuring that out month one and being honest, you let it go on for 12 months. And now you're a year older and you still haven't met anybody.
And let me share this. The term booty could be used in pirate vernacular as well in regards to money and all of that. You're just trying to get money and riches and gold.
Actually, that's
Shiver
true.
me timbers, mate. Where's
going
me
to get
booty?
me some booty.
She's not a gold digger.
She's going to get me some booty. But the thing I love about our conversations, the thing I love about this show, is that these are lifelong questions. These are lifelong pursuits. And the longer you live, the more you're honest and authentic with yourself, Ashley, the more these revelations become clearer to you in your life. Or at least that's how it's been for me.
But Eric, there is the rub.
What's the rub?
If you are honest and authentic with yourself.
That's the key.
Okay?
That's the key.
Because some people willfully deceive themselves because they don't want to see what's in front of them. Some people choose to deceive themselves.
But we've all been that person at some point in our life. We've all been that person at
I
some
was,
point in our life.
I mean, Ashley, I've told you the story of the ex-fiancé.
Well, yeah.
And I was guilty of willful ignorance. I saw the signs that this was a toxic relationship.
Yep.
Everyone around me tried to warn me, and I deliberately chose to ignore it because to me it was more important to be quote unquote in love.
And now that you've gone through that pain, you can articulate that dynamic to others who may have gone through, who may be going through it.
I've been able to end relationships when I saw the warning signs.
Yeah.
See, that was smart, but you learned from it. You didn't keep continuing the
you
cycle.
Didn't keep it. And I think that's one of the dynamics that I cannot express enough that I've encountered, in that we go through things in life. At least I can only speak from Eric's journey. I've gone through things in life that have prepared me to share both my triumphs and my failures, because the sharing of that externally with others fulfills me as a human being. I think that's part of my duty, to share the things that I've gone through as testimony to others, to say, hey, you're not the only one and you can get through it.
Also, it's like anybody that's listening tonight that has kids that went through drugs. And a lot of people that
or
their
kids that are going through drugs.
Yeah. And I have some clients and some patients that have gone through that with their kids. And in the beginning, they said, I saw it.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to accept it because I didn't want to think that my daughter so-and-so or my son was addicted to drugs, because I thought I raised them right. I thought I was the good parent. I was a good mom. I was like a good parent, like trying to do the right thing. Eric's over here playing music in the studio tonight. However, you keep playing around with all that stuff, something's going to happen sometime. So anyway, the thing is that you have to sit there and look at the obvious. You have to look at the reality of things and say, okay, I'm in a cycle. I've got to change. And once you put your foot down, once you accept those cycles and let those go, that's what's so awesome. But being also authentic and truthful and honest about a situation. When you know honestly what you love in life, and you can express that, you will find what you want. You will get what you need.
A lot of that, Ashley, from a parental perspective, being in that phase currently, a lot of that is hard to accept in that early phase, because it's not so much you looking at your kid, you're really looking at yourself. And I've gone through that as a parent. When I see my kids doing certain things, the first thing you want to do is internalize it, externalize it. But when you really peel back the onion, it's more of a reflection of self. And it goes back to your point about authenticity and honesty. And if you look at it from that viewpoint, you can maybe deal with it a little bit better, because you're dealing with it from within yourself first before you try to deal with it with your parent. And Michael Douglas is a big example of that. They've had drug addiction problems in their family, and he's going through it with his son recently. But he said his breakthrough as the father in dealing with his son came from the fact that he had to deal with the issues within himself first to be in a position to honestly help his son deal with it.
Yeah, and again, the whole key here is that you've got to be honest with yourself before you can be honest with somebody else.
Bingo, yeah.
Ashley, I would love to hear what our listeners, their experiences on Facebook and Twitter tonight. But I also want to bring this concept around to another angle that we haven't talked about yet, because synchronicity career-wise. We all have to have a job because we got to pay, the rent and mortgage and, cars and food and, clothes and blah, blah, blah.
Not the 1%, though.
Not the 1%, but the rest of us who aren't the 1%. But you have to be honest and authentic with yourself when it comes to your own career. I find myself in that situation where I was in a job that I came to despise.
Good point.
And it took me a while to be honest and authentic with myself. For a while I willfully deceived myself. I've been working here X number of years.
Money's good.
The money's good. The perks are good. I'm lucky. A lot of other people like to be in your position. Stop, complaining. But it just got to the point where it's just so toxic that, I just couldn't stand it anymore, and I had to make changes in my life because I was, people around me, Ashley, and I think I've told you this story. I had a girlfriend who broke up with me. My friends were kind of starting to distance themselves from me, and I just finally had to face facts, and it was painful, but I'm glad I did it.
But I think that the job, and this is just me, is one emanation of self. So job, and I think, Bill, and we can toss this out naturally, when you decided to do that, other things in your life begin to get in balance as well because you took that step. So
we're talking about the holistic person tonight.
Exactly, the whole person.
And it all comes together. If you do these things, the work comes together, the personal life works up together, the family life works out, all that stuff comes together when you're doing all this every day, all day, 24/7 in all aspects of your life. You have to be honest and authentic in all facets of your life. And Bill, I think you brought up a good point about the work, and that is you got to be understanding of yourself. You got to be honest in what you want in work, in relationships, at home, and all those aspects in your love life. So when we return, we're going to talk about more about how you can find synchronicity in all facets of your life and how you can get into sync right now.
Yes.
Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in 2 shakes.
I could lift you up. I could show you what you want to see and take you where you want to be.
Get in here and give us your perspective. We're listening. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Tonight's show, we've been discussing synchronicity and how you can sync up your life. Right before the break, we were talking about, being authentic, honest and authentic 24/7. And I have a little story to tell you about cycles and about being in the right place at the right time. Think about life as a house that has a basement, a first floor, a second floor, a third floor, and a rooftop deck. Okay. Think about it that way, right? When you're trying to get to the rooftop deck, if you're hanging out with everybody in the basement, you're going to have to be pulled down to the basement. When you're dealing with trying to help people that are in the basement thinking, they're in their thought patterns that are basement-based, okay? Think about that. It's going to bring you down, too. Because there's a reason why everybody's in a different stage of life. And I'm not saying that the people in the basement are bad people, and I'm not saying that the people on the rooftop deck are the best people, but I am saying if you think about it in methodology, you think about it in the thought process of where you are in life, when you're down in the basement dealing with basic issues, that's not accepting who you are, not being honest, lying. There's a lot of different degrees to that. When you work up to that first floor, that was a lot of work. When you got to the second floor, that was even more work. The third, the rooftop deck, it's better to be around people that think a lot like you as far as they care about their lives, they're honest and truthful with others, they do what's right, they don't backstab, they don't bully. And so the last thing you can do to create synchronicity in your life is to be up for anything. And what I mean is not to be closed-minded. A lot of times I'll hear people tell me all the time, well, I have as many friends as I need and I don't need any more friends. Okay, well, that's kind of a limited thought process. I've had people come and tell me I have as much education as I need. I don't need any more education. Well, when we stop being educated and we stop learning, we're dead. Okay, so we're learning on a constant basis. And so if you want to be in sync, you need to be up for anything and get rid of that closed-minded thought of judgment. Okay, judgment is a closed-minded thought.
Yep.
When we make automatic judgment on other people based on what we think we heard them say or what we think they are.
Well, Ashley, the word prejudice, okay, means prejudging, right?
Yeah.
And of course, in our society, we often associate the term prejudice with racial, prejudice, but there's a lot of things we have prejudice about.
Yeah.
A person wearing certain types of clothes, for example, if they're not dressed very well, or it's like holy or ratty, or whatever. Well, we automatically make certain assumptions about that person, don't we?
But when you use that prejudice to disrupt someone's life,
right?
And I think we all have a preconceived something. But I think to Ashley's point, when you're like water, when you've got that flexibility, holding firm to what you fundamentally believe, but realizing that there's different permeations of it, I think that allows for continued discovery in your life. And I think continued discovery in your life is a part of elevating to that rooftop perspective over time.
Did you just go Bruce Lee on me?
You caught that, didn't you?
Be like water.
Be like water.
Be like water, my
Chop
friend.
wood, carry water.
Yeah. Be like water.
Chop wood.
And I've
carry
always
water.
used that. I'm a Bruce Lee fan, but I've always used
Yeah.
that. And I talk to my son about it. I say the beauty of water is it could be a solid, it could be a gas, it could be, in its traditional water form.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's no gas in here.
Oh, but there's no gas in here.
Well,
but it's flexible.
I'm in the control room, so you can't. No.
It's flexible, but yet it still maintains.
There's no vents in here from the control room.
It maintains the character of what it is. So
Yeah.
you guys are funny. You guys are funny.
Well, but Eric,
I can make poopy jokes and fart jokes all day long.
yes, we can
With the best of them.
With the best of them, because
Sometimes I feel like I'm in a locker room.
actually,
a locker room of 5th grade.
right? That's with a bunch
A locker
of kids.
room full of interesting and engaging perspectives. How's that?
God bless you. That was sweetly said.
Yes, it's
like
true.
But yeah, Ashley, to your point, like you were saying, if you prejudge or have prejudice, about something or something, well, that's limiting. You've literally closed your mind. I already know everything I want to know about that person or that thing.
And you miss out on so much, man. You miss out on so much when you do that. And it's the same thing with yourself. When you prejudge yourself, I can never be this or I can never be that, it's the same dynamic inwardly as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this topic, in that I think this topic opens the door for a person to think differently. Okay, to think differently, to empower themselves, to reach for that balance, that alignment, and that synchronicity. Think differently.
Yeah.
And a big deal is a lot of us were all raised by somebody, I don't think many people were raised by apes, but most people were raised by humans, right? And so if you were raised by some sort of human, whether it was a mother, a father, a grandparent,
Some
an
sort of
aunt, an
human.
uncle,
That's hilarious.
an
Some sort of
adopted.
human.
I was going to say, I have family members who were raised in a barn.
She said,
I was raised by cats, okay? So, I don't know about y'all. And a bear. And a mama bear with some cats. And so I have some interesting personal tics. No, I'm just kidding. What I'm talking, though, about is we're all raised by people, right?
Yeah.
These people's values are kind of placed on us. And we are raised in a certain environment. And so sometimes the things that we believe in might not necessarily be our beliefs. And so to really be authentic in life, and so going back to being honest and authentic 24/7, to be authentic means to be authentically you.
Yeah.
Not authentically your mom, not authentically your dad, to be authentically you. So if you don't necessarily believe certain beliefs of theirs, it doesn't mean that you have to keep them. You need to sit there and find yourself. Whether if you were raised in the Catholic Church, but you think Buddhist is more your speed, think about it. If you were raised a certain way, a lot of people that are listening tonight might have even been raised in a family that might have been racist.
Yeah.
Okay? And if that didn't seem appropriate to you and you had friends that were of a different color, a different race, and you thought that was a good thing, that's something you need to remember, is that family does the best they can, okay?
Yeah.
But sometimes they have limitations that were placed on them by their family members. And so you have to end that cycle, and that could be considered one of those negative cycles that you have to end.
And there's
to be authentic.
And there's nothing, really negative in the fact that what the cycle allows to occur, but positive in the sense that cycle is a building block to your liberation. So if you did have that prejudiced family, whatever it was, racist family, whatever you want to call it, whatever dynamic, you have the opportunity to grow from that, but also look back at that to see how far you've come.
Well, and like I said earlier, we associate the term prejudice with racial prejudice in our society, but there's all kinds of prejudice. Gender prejudice, for example.
Your mom could think that your brother would do really well and talked about how your brother's going to go to med school, and maybe you could be a seamstress. Maybe if you're lucky, we'll help. You know what I'm saying? And I know people. I have clients that come in all the time talking about how their parents treated their brothers better than them.
I can also think of examples of education prejudice. Oh my gosh, you don't have a college degree?
You don't have a doctorate?
Zip code prejudice.
It's like zip code prejudice.
Area code prejudice.
Yeah, zip or area code prejudice. Yeah,
but yeah, yeah. Okay, I was going to say I got a story about that, but I'll tell you all after.
We'll wait that one out.
But the bottom line though, it's all limiting. It's limiting in an unlimited universe. And you talk about Keenan and his affection for physics and all of that, and I share the same passion.
Shout out Keenan.
Yeah, I share the same passion. We live in an unlimited universe. So why do we as humans living in an unlimited universe limit ourselves?
You know why? I here's what I think about that. It's because it's the Linus blanket. You know, by deliberately limiting ourselves, it's comfortable. We don't have to think. We don't have to, because fear of the unknown, remember, is the greatest fear.
Well, that keeps you in check.
Yeah. So
I mean, the government doesn't have to keep you in check if you're keeping yourself in check.
So what force wants to keep us in check?
The ego.
There you go.
The ego. Yeah.
The ego always wants to keep us in check because the ego is telling you how bad you are all the time.
Yep.
I mean, think about it. People cannot be your worst enemy if you're your worst enemy. I mean, they have to stand in line and take a number. Okay, because really, normally, we're the ones beating ourselves up. You know, like I've talked about this before on previous shows that you can hear on Spreaker or iTunes on Perspectives. You know, it's about the idea of if you're in a fight with somebody, if you're too busy fighting yourself at the same time, it's hard to fight two people. So, like, think about it. If you were in a fight, a real fight, and you're outside and you're about to start a fight with somebody, and at the same time you're having to, like, left hook yourself while you're hitting them, that's hard. And that's what a lot of people are going through on a daily basis doing, is they see the outside world as a fight, and then they have this inside fight. And so you got to sit there and regulate, why am I fighting myself?
Yeah.
I mean, we all have our problems, and we all have things that we might not feel we are that good at.
But don't fight yourself.
You don't have to be great at everything.
You're the home team. Don't fight yourself. It reminds me of that Matrix scene, Bill, that we always talk about with Neo, with the agent, and he finally realized that the agent was a facet of his own self.
Right.
And for him to be free, he had to kill that part of himself, which was fundamentally counterintuitive to living. Think about that.
And he had to become one with with that facet, So, I mean, it's...
Take it down from the inside out.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, I think the key, actually, to maintain the synchronicity is doing what may, on the surface, seem counterintuitive.
Counterintuitive, yeah.
It may not be comfortable, at least at first. But
doing what's right is not always the easiest thing.
Right.
It's not.
Doing what's true and honest is not always the easiest thing.
But it always is the right thing.
And it gets easier with time. I mean, because there were times when, you kind of just don't tell the full truth, right? And now it just seems like you got to, because you've realized there's too many people on the line for you not to be honest. And if one person doesn't like you because you're honest, guess what? There's a billion more. So don't worry about that. It's not a numbers game. It's finding where you fit in and how you sync up. And in order to sync up, you got to be honest with everybody and not have an agenda, not have some sort of false agenda.
Agreed.
That was a great show, Eric.
Love it. Love it. Thanks for being here, listeners. Glad you guys are tuning in. Keep tuning in and tell your friends.
Tell your friends, tell your family. Bill, awesome show.
Thank you very much, Ashley. As always, I learned a lot.
Yeah, I did too. I learned a lot about us. Learned a lot about doors tonight, and I learned a lot about synchronicity.
Learned about doors that have malicious intent.
We'll talk to that door here after the show. But anyway, next time, think about it. Synchronicity in your daily life, you can have it right now, 24/7, if you're authentic and honest. And if you're doing what you need to do at all times, not being that doormat, ending those negative cycles, and being up for anything and open-minded. Stay tuned. We got a great show for you next week. And Perspectives, your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back this time in 3 shakes.